In just 2 years, one young soldier has gone from being unknown to becoming one of the most controversial leaders in Africa. Ibrahim Traoré, the man who seized power in Burkina Faso at only 34 years old, is praised by some as a hero who has broken the chains of colonial domination and inspired African self-reliance. But to others, he is walking down a dangerous path, one where freedom is traded for control, and where a revolutionary dream may transform into authoritarian rule. The question is simple but urgent: is Traoré really building a sovereign future for Burkina Faso? Or is he building a regime where his word is law? Today, we take you through his 2 years in power, his bold decisions, his promises, and the troubling contradictions shaping his rule. When Traoré first emerged in September 2022, the world was shocked. A 34-year-old captain leading a coup against another soldier, Paul-Henri Damiba, who himself had promised to bring security after years of unrest. Burkina Faso was under siege from jihadist insurgents linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Thousands of lives had been lost, millions displaced. Villages were burned, schools abandoned, farmers driven from their land. The people were desperate for security and tired of leaders who spoke of democracy but delivered nothing. Into this chaos came Traoré, a man with the charisma of a revolutionary and the fire of a Pan-Africanist. From his very first speeches, Traoré declared his mission: Burkina Faso would reclaim its dignity, its resources, and its independence. He denounced France, the former colonial power, accusing it of exploiting the country for decades under the disguise of friendship and partnership. His words struck a deep chord with ordinary citizens, especially the youth. For years, young Africans had watched their countries remain dependent on Western aid, Western troops, and Western companies. Suddenly, here was a leader who promised to cut those ties and chart a new path. One of his earliest bold moves was to demand the withdrawal of French forces. For decades, France had maintained troops and military bases in Burkina Faso, claiming to help in the fight against terrorism. But many Burkinabes saw this presence as an extension of colonial control. Traoré gave them an ultimatum. Within weeks, French soldiers were gone, their bases emptied. For his supporters, this was historic. It was the first real act of sovereignty in decades. For his critics, it was reckless, removing experienced troops when the country was still at war with insurgents. In place of France, Traoré turned to new allies. He drew closer to Russia, seeking military support, weapons, and training. He aligned himself with Mali and Niger, to neighboring countries, also under military rule, and also rejecting Western influence. Together, they presented themselves as a new bloc of African resistance, a coalition ready to build a future free of neo-colonial chains. Across social media, images of Traoré standing tall, wearing his red beret and military fatigues, spread like wildfire. To many young Africans, he was the new Thomas Sankara, the legendary revolutionary of Burkina Faso, assassinated in 1987. But 2 years into his rule, the story is not so simple. On one side, Traoré's government has launched initiatives to strengthen self-reliance. Farmers have been encouraged to return to agriculture with promises of government support. Local industries, especially in mining and small manufacturing, are being promoted as part of a vision to reduce imports. Schools are being told to focus more on African history, African pride, and national dignity. His speeches constantly emphasize sovereignty, dignity, and unity. These ideas inspire hope among citizens tired of dependency. Yet, on the other side, there are growing concerns about how Traoré governs. The press is not as free as before. Independent journalists face restrictions, and opposition voices are either silenced or intimidated. Civil society groups say that space for dissent is shrinking. Political parties are in limbo, unable to function freely under the military-led government. Traoré insists that these measures are temporary, necessary to keep the country focused on security and survival. But critics warn that this is how authoritarianism begins, always justified as temporary, always in the name of stability, until it becomes permanent. Security remains the biggest challenge. Despite bold declarations, terrorism has not disappeared. Attacks continue in rural areas. Thousands remain displaced. Villagers still live in fear of raids by jihadist groups. Traoré's answer has been to arm tens of thousands of civilian volunteers, ordinary people trained quickly and given weapons to defend their communities. Supporters hail this as people's defense, a way for Burkina to take their destiny into their own hands. But human rights organizations raise alarms, warning that poorly trained militias can lead to abuses, ethnic violence, and lawlessness. The fight for survival is real, but the risks of deepening chaos are also real. Internationally, Traoré's stand against France has made him a hero in the eyes of many Africans. His fiery speeches about sovereignty and dignity are widely shared online. In countries like Senegal, Nigeria, and Ghana, young people quote his words as proof that Africa can rise. But in Western capitals, he is viewed with suspicion. France accuses him of betraying long-standing partnerships. The European Union raises concerns about democracy and human rights. The United States watches carefully, worried about growing Russian influence in West Africa. Traoré does not seem bothered. He insists that Burkina Faso will not be dictated to, that Africans must decide their future, not foreign governments. The heart of the debate is this: can Burkina Faso, under Traoré, truly build independence while preserving democracy? Or will the price of sovereignty be the sacrifice of freedom? History gives us examples but no clear answers. Queen Nkrumah of Ghana dreamed of African unity, but was accused of authoritarian control before being overthrown. Sankara brought radical change, but was assassinated after only 4 years. Across the continent, leaders who challenged Western power often faced coups, sanctions, or internal unrest. Will Traoré be any different? 2 years into his rule, the evidence is mixed. His bold stance against neocolonialism is undeniable. His vision of self-reliance inspires hope, but his tightening control at home raises questions about where this journey leads. To some, he is a liberator. To others, he is a soldier clinging to power under the cover of revolution. The truth may lie somewhere in between, and time will decide which side of history remembers him more strongly. The next 2 years will be decisive. If Traoré can deliver real security, improve the economy, and create a clear path toward civilian rule, he may go down as one of Africa's great leaders, a man who dared to resist foreign control and succeeded. But if insecurity persists, if freedoms continue to shrink, if promises of democracy remain vague, then the label of authoritarianism will grow harder to shake off. For now, the world watches, Africa debates, and Burkina live the daily reality of hope, fear, and uncertainty under their young leader. So, is Ibrahim Traoré building a nation of true independence, or is he building a state where all power rests in his hands? His 2 years in power have raised both hope and concern. His next 2 years may answer the question that will define not only his legacy but also the future of Burkina Faso.